A busy night of watches, warnings, and advisories across the nation. I think every state has at least something going on, except for Florida and Wisconsin, from what I can guess on the map. We're going to go through everything. We've got a big blizzard for the mountains of California and up north through Oregon and Washington State. We've got wind advisories popping up all over the place now in parts of the most of the eastern part of the U.S. and the areas that aren't under wind advisories may very well be under wind advisories tomorrow morning. All of that and more on tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which is brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the descriptor to this podcast, and if you make a purchase of this or anything else from the Tempest website, use the coupon code WINTER2324, because if you do, what will they get, Joe Rayo?
All right, well, it looks like they're going to be... No, wait a minute. That's not a very good Johnny Olson, is it?
No, it's not.
Come on down. No, 10%.
No.
10% off on anything you buy from Tempest, and that is a great, great offer.
So here we are tonight. Let me say hello to everybody on the chat board tonight. Hi, everybody on the chat board, and welcome to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. We're glad you're here. We hope you're well. Big hugs to everyone. And for those of you who are lurking in the background, Audrey Puente, I'm talking to you. You can join the conversation just by subscribing to my YouTube channel, and make sure you turn your notifications on. You know why? Because this way you'll never miss the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which is on Sunday through Thursdays at 7:35 p.m. and the odd Friday and Saturday when there's a storm around. If you like the show, hit the like button so that Joe Rayo can ring his bells like he loves to do. Yes.
That's an advance
And
of
then,
the... Get right.
well, we got 30 so far. So
Yes.
Get to 100, we ring the bell. So does
Like,
it ever?
like national shoes.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
Do you ever wonder the logic behind when they put up these advisories, and you sit there and you look and you see who's got advisories and who doesn't have advisories, and you ask yourself, did they talk to each other at all? Because
They should.
you
They
would
should. I
think,
mean, I remember here in the Northeast during big storms that we had what they were calling coordination messages, where Boston would talk to Albany, Albany would talk to New York, New York with Philadelphia. They'd all get on the same page.
well, I'm just asking the question because sometimes I just, I don't know. I just wonder. For example, I'll put the watches and warnings map up right now. And so they've got wind advisories up for all of New England, pretty much, except for northern Maine. And I understand that, they got to find a cutoff someplace. All right. So I'm looking at the map here. So they have high wind warnings up for much of upstate New York, north central New York, northeast New York, back over into western and southwestern New York, and also in the upper Hudson Valley to Massachusetts. And I sort of get that. But I was just wondering because I was looking down at late this afternoon, and here's the New York office, for example. So they have wind advisories up for Warren and Sussex County. They've got wind advisories up for northern Westchester, but not southern Westchester. They have wind advisories up for all of coastal Connecticut, but not for Nassau and for western Suffolk County, not for New York City, not for northeastern New Jersey, but they have it up for the eastern part of Suffolk County. So, I mean, are the winds just going to drop and be under criteria? Are they looking at this and saying it's going to stop at Route 84 or 287? I mean, I don't know. I struggle, Joe. I don't know
Well,
about you. I struggle sometimes.
usually the coastal areas or the coastal plain is the spot that you would look for getting the wind advisories, and sometimes it tends to drop off as you go inland. So I don't understand either why New York and much of Nassau and western Suffolk County is not in this advisory, as well as a good part of northeastern New Jersey. It doesn't make any sense to me either. We are expecting winds to gust past 40, maybe even 45 miles an hour later tomorrow, and especially tomorrow night, and especially so on Thursday. Thursday is going to be a very blustery, windy day.
Yes. You know, I'll give them an out. I'll just say that, okay, maybe whoever the forecaster was decided that for those other counties, he's going to wait until tomorrow morning to put them up. To me, it just leads to a certain amount of confusion. And again, I understand that they got to cut it off someplace, but it just looks weird sometimes when you have these gaping holes, and some of it's topography too, and I also understand that. But we'll see where this all goes. We've got flood watches up for much of northern Maine and a few counties that I guess would not be considered northern Maine. Also, for some reason, they got a flood watch for one county in upstate New York, way up in northeast New York, just one county. Okay. We've got flood watches up for much of West Virginia, southeast Ohio, a small portion of southwest PA, wind advisories across the south and into the southeast, uh, eastern North Carolina and western North Carolina under wind advisory, but central Virginia and central North Carolina are not under a wind advisory. Again, I'll figure it out. Up and down the Mississippi River Valley, back to Oklahoma, high wind warnings in northwest Texas, high wind warnings for much of New Mexico, winter storm warnings for the western half of Colorado and for north central Utah. We've got winter storm warnings for the Cascades and also down into northwestern California. A blizzard warning, Joe, a blizzard warning up for the Sierra Nevadas. It's going to snow there for 4 straight days. I mean, that to me is just the idea that it could snow for straight days is beyond me.
You know, the most incredible thing to me, more than the rain and the showers, and even more than the wind, is the fact that overnight tonight, the low temperature here in the Hudson Valley is going to drop to within a degree or two of 51. And the normal high temperature at this time of the year is only around 47 or 48. So tonight it's going to be warmer than it normally would be during the daytime, during the afternoon, with a high sun, with temperatures in the upper 40s. It's going to be a very balmy. I mean, you consider I'm thinking about all those nights in my life, late February, where we've had bitter cold and snow and everything else. And tonight, low temperatures within a few degrees of 50 or 51 degrees. This is incredible. This really is weird. And yesterday, Joe, yesterday
Yes.
was a day where we had an incredible amount of warm weather across much of the nation. We had temperatures, I think, in about 100, 145 or 150 million people had temperatures yesterday at or above 70. Texas, 90 or above. And Killeen, Texas, 100 degrees. How do you like that?
In the
100
month of February, no less.
on the 26th of February.
I
Incredible.
mean, that's just preposterous. It really is. It's just preposterous. I think there were something like 144 record highs that were set yesterday across much of the South and well from Texas northeastward into the lower Ohio Valley. A lot of 80s that we saw yesterday back through parts of Arkansas, Oklahoma, and yeah, those 90s. I mean, but it's just really when you think about the date on the calendar, just how out of whack is the atmosphere right now across the U.S. To have temperatures that high this early.
I'm thinking back to 1979. Of course, we had the President's Day blizzard back then, and even in the week following the snow, I mean, the central and eastern states were experiencing frigid temperatures. One of the biggest snowstorms in the history of Missouri over the central part of the United States. And here we are now, all of these years later, 45 years later, and quite the opposite with the temperatures. I hear St. Louis yesterday got up to 86.
Yeah.
It's crazy. The 26th of February.
No, it's well, you've got this persistent trough in the west, and you've got nothing like that in the east. There's no Arctic air connection really There's colder cold air, such as it is dropping into the western part of the U.S., and it's mainly confined to the mountains anyway. So, uh, well, this is just the way this winter uh, has turned out. And by the way, this is the latest GFS. I went out 7 days for snowfall here. In I mean, when you run the cursor on pivotal weather over any specific latitude, longitude point, it actually tells you how much snow is the model is forecasted for that particular spot. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of cities in here because it's mountain country. But I mean, I run this cursor here through Northern California, 115 inches, 115 inches. This is out. I went out. Uh, let's see. 6 days, 6 days. So this is ending 1 a.m. Tuesday, next Tuesday, right? Because it's not going to start snowing until Thursday. But I mean, 115 inches. My God, you go down. Reno is in 23.7. I didn't really look at the meteorology to see if that's really going to be the case, because we know how sometimes the models do exaggerate these numbers. But for the mountains here, I mean, it's just this long stretch of numbers of 75, 85, 95, 105, 115. I mean, it's just crazy, crazy snow amounts here. And I got I had a comment on one of my posts today about the fact from someone who mentioned the fact that up until now, I mean, unlike last year where it was almost nonstop, they really haven't had anywhere close to the amount of snow that they had last year. I mean, they've had some snow in the Sierra Nevadas and the Cascades, but not like, it's particularly for California, not like last year, which probably will sit on the record books for a while anyway.
Well,
Um,
last year, what did they have? They had like 18 atmospheric rivers that came one after another after another. I mean, they've had a few of those this year, but nothing compared to what they had last year. So obviously, the snowfall is nowhere near. I mean, it's impressive, 115 inches of snow, but I mean, nothing compared to what they had last year.
Well, this is going to make up for some of it anyway. And going further north, running up the Cascades, we're looking at also not quite as extreme. I mean, there are some pockets up here that are up at the 75-inch, 80-inch range, mostly in the 40 to 60-inch range for a lot of this area. And the models actually are even giving some snow to Seattle at some point over the next 6 days. So you know my rule, Joe. My rule is if it snows in Seattle, it's not good for the
For
eastern
us.
part of the United States.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. It's everything is always a it's like a seesaw, if you will. One place may be down in terms of temperatures, cold conditions, and if that be the case, the other side of the country is up, and we've certainly have been up more times than I can count in recent days and weeks around here, and that's also why we don't have at Central Park more than 7.5 inches of snow to date.
What's your snow total for the season so far where you are?
My snow total, we had 10 inches last week, early last week, or a couple of weeks ago, and we had I would say we have less than 20 inches of snow. We've had one 5 inch event, a 2 inch event, maybe a three. I don't have the accumulated number in front of me, but it certainly has been less than 20. And a better example of how much snow we've had is the number of times I've had to drag out the snowblower. So far this season, twice. Two times I've had to use the snowblower. Last year, I only used it 3 times. And back when I first moved here in the early 2000s, we were here in 2002. And during those, the first 5 or 10 years up here, we used to get, wintertime, we'd get like at least 50 or 60 inches, sometimes 70 or 80. And I remember one winter we must have used that snowblower at least 10 or 12 times. And this year, again, to date, I've only had to use it twice. And last year, only 3 times. So this is for snow lovers. It's been not too happy over these last 2 or 3 years.
Well, we've got a busy radar tonight, and Joe is going to take a look at what's happening. There's some severe weather not too far away from Chicago as well, and Joe's going to take us on a radar trip there. And well, the board is yours.
Well, before I get into that, let me just talking about snow or the lack of snow. It was 1 year ago today in 2023 that at Central Park, the second measurable snowfall of the winter, the first a mere zero point 0.4 inches, which was on February 1st, 2023. Well, the second measurable snowfall began a year ago this evening, brought 1.8 inches of snow. Half of that fell today, the other half in the after midnight hours. 3 to 7 inches fell in the outlying suburbs, like here where I am, where temperatures were a bit colder. And this snowfall, the 1.8 inches of snow that fell during the overnight hours of the 27th and into the 28th, would be the most significant snowfall of what would become the least snowy winter on record. It still is at Central Park. As far as the radar is concerned, let's go to the share screen here, and we will share the screen. We are going to look first at New York City. Actually, this is Upton, New York. And you can see that rain has moved in over the last couple of hours. There are the orange areas, which indicate moderate rainfall activity, which has been occurring right here in Little Old Putnam Valley, and also all the way down into parts of New York, and also into portions of Nassau County. And this is moving at a fairly quick pace. Notice there's not all that much that's occurring over eastern Pennsylvania and western sections of New Jersey. So I suspect that this first round of precip will move on through and will be pretty well done sometime later this evening, maybe in the next 2 hours or so. And this whole area moving again toward the east, I would say at a good clip, maybe about 20, 25 miles an hour. Let's check out places north. Let's go to Albany, see how it looks on their radar. And you can see it is indeed working its way up toward the capital district of New York State. It is just, well, it has just arrived in Albany, but looks like the heaviest activity is off to the south of Albany, down toward, let's say, Kingston and Poughkeepsie, although Albany will get its share of, a little bit of light precipitation. How about further south down toward Philadelphia? In Philly, you could see like the broad area of moderate rain is over northern New Jersey. In Philadelphia, it came and it's gone. You could see here's Philadelphia here. They had some light precipitation, light rain, but that looks like it's pretty well done now. And as you can see, much of eastern Pennsylvania out in the clear. So they've had a bit of precip, not as much as New York in Philly, but that's it's pretty well done there. I do want to look at Chicago because, Joe, Chicago is under an enhanced risk of tornadic activity or at least severe weather activity. And I think they have a tornado watch for Chicago. And take a look at what's heading their way. And in fact, over here, it almost looks like a hook echo trying to develop. You can see this area of deep shades of red. And here's Chicago. So Chicago's going to get plunked, I think, over the next hour or two with some heavy-duty showers and storms. And again, there is a potential all across the lower Great Lakes area for possibly some severe weather, and in fact, more than just a slight chance. In fact, let me just take this down for a second, and let me bring up, I know I'm jumping the gun because you are the one who usually does this, Joe, but for the heck of it, why don't I just show everybody SPC's convective outlook, and you could see that there's a broad area here tonight covering the lower Great Lakes of a slight chance of severe weather, but here encompassing much of northern Illinois and northwestern Indiana, and that includes the Chicago area, and also a band here from southeastern Missouri, extreme southern sections of Illinois, southern Indiana, and into southwestern Ohio. We have the potential for enhanced severe weather. So if you're going to get thunderstorm activity that could possibly provide tornadic activity, and indeed in these enhanced zones, there is a 10% chance. That's pretty darn high for tornado activity. 10% for the possibility overnight tonight of tornadic activity as far as wind is concerned. 30% in this red hatched area here for damaging winds over 58 miles per hour. Hail, do we have any hail? Yeah. Hail, a 30% chance in the enhanced zone in and around Chicago. This is a really nasty outbreak. It's one thing if this were late April, but it's late February, for God's sake. And this is what they're looking at tonight, again, in parts of the Midwest, a tornadic threat of some significance for the areas in and around the Chicago area.
And I have up on Tornado HQ, so I will switch now to Tornado HQ website here. And this is a very handy website for severe weather because it's updated pretty much in real time. So you can see the boxes that are just to the southwest of Chicago, where we have two severe thunderstorm warnings, and then inside one of those boxes is a what looks like two. It looks like two red boxes inside there. So two. I don't. That's. It could be just my eyes deceiving me, but you see it there inside the severe thunderstorm warning boxes. There's another one that lies outside of there to the southwest. This complex continues to move to the northeast. So at least as of 7:56 p.m. Eastern time, we've got one, two, three working tornado warnings up. One for Kane County, okay, and that is a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado near Maple Park or near DeKalb, moving northeast at 20. The next one is, and this expires in 33 minutes. The next one was issued a half an hour ago and has another 18 minutes to run. A severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was near Paw Paw. Okay, Paw Paw. We have a barbecue, a roadside barbecue place called Paw Paws here. Paw Paw or near Jabona. This is in Illinois, in DeKalb County, moving east at 25. And then the third one, so I guess there are two tornado warnings in that box. In DeKalb County, we have a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado near Waterman or right near DeKalb, moving northeast at 20. And that, as I said, goes for another 17 minutes. And folks, it's 7:57 p.m. Eastern time. So if you're watching this on a replay, obviously it's all dated. So be sure if you're living in an area that's being affected by severe weather, you want to get the latest information. So please go to weather.gov and go to your local National Weather Service office. Just find it where it is on the map and just click on it, and it'll take you to your local National Weather Service office, and you can get the latest information there. And here's what it looks like on the wide radar view. You can see the rain and showers that are moving through New York State and Connecticut down to Long Island and into New Jersey. There's a warm front that's approaching, so that's why we've seen these showers break out ahead. You can see the complex, the severe weather complex that is in Illinois. And we also have some showers that are breaking out with the cold front back across western Iowa. And this is where the Storm Prediction Center at the moment has a tornado watch box up. And well, it did until I moved the cursor, and you can see it there. So there were two separate areas of enhancement, as Joe described, and the marginal risk that extended into western Pennsylvania, and the convective risk right up into southern New England. Now, tomorrow, Wednesday, they did expand this a bit. Okay, so they've now put much of all of New Jersey, the Hudson Valley, New York City, westernmost Connecticut, and points south down into Virginia, North and South Carolina, all in a general thunderstorm risk. They have a marginal risk of severe weather from eastern Tennessee up the Appalachians, northeastward into northeast PA, and continuing northeastward through the Catskills and up into northern New York and northwestern Vermont. Any feeling, Joe, if they might expand that a little further, or is this as far
Well,
as they go?
we've seen over the last 3 days, Joe, and 3 days ago we were talking about Hey, maybe they ought to mention at least the possibility that there might be some convection on Thursday because we weren't even in a general thunderstorm area. Yesterday, they had the general thunderstorm area protruding part way into the westernmost sections of the tri state area. Still not really much of anything for New York or Long Island or areas just to the east. And now tonight, not only are we all in the general thunderstorm area, but again, just a stone's throw away to the west is a marginal risk. So who's to say that tomorrow they may expand the marginal risk and they may even have a little sliver of a slight chance of severe? I think if we do see severe occurring, it will probably come just out ahead of the cold front, which will be arriving probably sometime. Now, we were touching about this yesterday. You were asking me, do I think that the front would get here a little quicker before midnight? All the models now seem to be on the same page for speed that we may see a frontal passage, a faux pas, along about 9, 10, 11 o'clock tomorrow night. And if we do get convection, if we do get a potential threat of thunderstorms, the best chance probably will be just before that front arrives late tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. So we'll be watching that for everybody. Now, I just want to back up quickly, Joe. I am sharing right now a graphic. Somebody made a reference to it on the chat board
All right, hang
about.
on. Let me bring you back up on the screen here.
Okay. Somebody made reference to Torcon. Now, in case you are somebody who watches the Weather Channel, and they've been using this now for about a year, Torcon is their way of categorizing how high a threat a tornado outbreak would be in specific regions, specific zones. And this is the Torcon map for this evening. And on a scale of 0 to 10, Chicago, the Chicago area right now, has a Torcon rating of 5 from places from Chicago on south, 3 for areas around Fort Wayne, 5 down toward western sections of Kentucky, southeastern Illinois, and southwestern Indiana. And this is an interesting graphic. Again, I think it's of the making of the folks over at the Weather Channel. I would hate to see what would happen if Torcon. I mean,
If we got a cease and desist letter.
well, I would hate to see what happens if I don't think they're going to send us a cease and desist. But what I'm saying is that I'd hate to think of what would happen if we were looking at zones that had a Torcon of 7, 8, or 9. For God's sake, that would be absolute cataclysmic destruction. I think it's bad enough that here it is, the 27th of February, and we're showing areas with Torcon ratings of 5. I would have thought it would be higher compared to what we saw on the radar and what the Storm Prediction Center was indicating on the map just a few minutes ago. So that is what is happening. I forgot who was the one who was asking about Torcon. It was again, somebody on the chat board. I apologize. I didn't pick up the name or didn't write the name down, but you were asking about it. Here it is. That's what the ratings are for the possibility of tornadic activity tonight, at least in accordance with the Weather Channel. See, at least I'm giving credit, Joe, where credit is due. They have Torcon tonight, but they don't have the Weather Channel logo there. But this pretty much, I think, is where I got it from, is from the Weather Channel.
All right. That's okay.
If I get a letter, a registered letter tomorrow from, Atlanta, Georgia, I'll let you know.
Right. Well, here's a surface map. They've got. I'm just looking at this. This is at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Most of the winds. I was trying to get a clue here where the warm front. I mean, they have a warm front, but it's way back in Illinois, and I guess that kind of makes sense because it's in the 50s and low 60s ahead of it. And I guess it didn't get as warm as what was being modeled today in the east, because I'm seeing a lot of places that where the models were pushing 60s all the way up into New Jersey and northeastern Pennsylvania, and a couple of 60s in there, but there are a lot more 50s than 60s. And the wind again more east southeast. And then you go further west into the Ohio Valley, and the winds become more south and southwest with temperatures in the low 60s. And but you jump to the other side of the front, and they're mostly in the 70s. It did not get as warm today in the areas that got well into the 90s yesterday. and certainly well into the 80s and well into the 90s. Yeah, there's the odd spot. There were a few places that got to upper 70s and low 80s, but it really didn't. You have to go all the way down to Brownsville practically to get, or inland of Brownsville to get it to some temperatures that were up around the 90-degree mark. So the models were maybe a little bit too, they were right yesterday, but perhaps a little bit overzealous today. And meanwhile, this is actually cold air that's behind the front. And we're talking about temperatures that are in the teens, and then you get up into the Dakotas, and we're talking about readings that are running below zero. And you go up into Canada, and we're seeing some double-digit below zero readings. We haven't seen that since that big Arctic air mass that came down back in January. But you also see a low, there's a low being analyzed, an 89 low in northwest Missouri on the frontal boundary. There's another low up in the upper peninsula of Michigan, and then you've got this trailing cold front that goes back down across Oklahoma, northern Oklahoma, southern Colorado. It's not doing too much yet in the west because a lot of the action for the West is going to be coming in, starting to come in, but it's going to make its way down to California by the time we get to Thursday, and that's when the big snows are happening. And once again, folks, been pointing this out. The Pacific subtropical jet has been rearing its ugly head all winter long, and here it is. So every time it's made an appearance, it's always wound up to uh, be part of a strong storm system developing, which is what we're going to see in the lower lakes. And then you see all the energy that's coming in from the Pacific Northwest and offshore the Pacific. We've got a strong upper air system and surface system that's actually dropping southward from Alaska, and it's going to drop down to probably even with the Oregon coast. The upper feature is going to swing in right in that area and hold its strength as it does so, and that really winds up enhancing the snows in the Sierra Nevada mountains. First in the Cascades, but the real, I mean, they're going to get heavy snows in the Cascades, but the Sierra Nevadas are going to wind up getting double the snow amounts that they're going to get further to the north. Uh, the precip forecast amounts, they've got now. This is 7 days, so we've got a couple of systems. These are several systems put together, which is why you see the 1.5 to 2.5 inches of rain being indicated for southern New England and southeastern New England back to Long Island. Uh, 3/4 of an inch to an inch up and down the coast, some pockets of 1.5 inches in the Gulf states, some pockets of 2.5 inches, and then in the West, it's just the same song. We've got melted precip amounts of 5 to 7 inches or more, actually 5 to 10 inches in the Sierra Nevadas mountains, and also in northwestern California, going into southwestern Oregon, and then moving up the coast where it's all going to be, mostly rain until you get into the mountains. And there you also have 5 to 7 inches of melted precip there, 2 to 3 inches or more in the northern Rockies, extending down into parts of the central Rockies and into the Wasatch Range in Utah. Okay,
I don't
so
I don't understand why WPC has us. When I say us, I say much of the Northeast, including the New York area. They have us in a marginal risk for flooding, not tomorrow, but on Thursday. Well, Thursday from 12Z Thursday to 12Z Friday. Isn't everything done? You think
long
by
gone. Oh my God, it's long gone.
and so
Did, did
they
someone?
have us in a marginal.
Wait, hold on. Let me bring that up. Let's bring that map up.
Or is that? Wait a minute.
Um,
Is that today and tomorrow? No, it's tomorrow. I'm sorry. I'm
oh, it
sorry.
is.
It's tomorrow that they have the
All
marginal
right.
risk.
Yeah, 12Z Wednesday to 12Z Thursday. They do have a marginal risk. It kind of matches up with with where SPC's got their marginal risk for severe weather. So it
Right,
matches up somewhat with that from the southern Appalachians all the way up into Maine.
right.
Well, but we'll see. This front's moving pretty quickly. I mean, unless we get it gets more convective than advertised, I would think the rainfall amounts should be for most places under an inch. Maybe some places get an inch to an inch and a quarter. I would think the best chances for that is probably southeastern New England. But unless the convection becomes a bigger player tomorrow, I would think that that flash flooding would not be an issue.
No, I don't think so. And then besides, and we were talking about this the last couple of days, is that we may get a dose of precipitation maybe early tomorrow, and then there may be a broad time frame late morning into the afternoon where really nothing is happening. Maybe the clouds will try to break. Maybe we'll get into some sunshine. I got to 60 degrees today, Joe, by the way, and we get even a few pokes of sun tomorrow. We're out to break 60 and go much higher. And in fact, the record at Westchester Airport tomorrow, 63, that was set back in 1976. The main thrust of, or the next really thrust or push of heavy rain and possible convection, as I said, will be with the approach of the actual cold front, probably very late tomorrow and into the first part of tomorrow night. I think by 9 or 10 o'clock tomorrow night, it's all over, and the front pushes on by, and then we get into that broad northwesterly flow of much colder air. We're going to see everything drop dramatically, I think, after the front moves on by late tomorrow evening. From 60 or thereabouts tomorrow afternoon, maybe down to only around 30 or so by daybreak on Thursday morning.
And WPC has some snow possibilities for this would be behind the cold front. Some of this is lake effect, and some of it is in areas where the cold air comes in very, very quickly and maybe changes it over briefly to some accumulating snows. So this is the probability of at least two, and it's mostly in southwestern New York, in north central New York, as well as northwest Massachusetts and on up through Vermont, northern New Hampshire, and then on the Canada side, little bit of higher probabilities for two, also in northwestern Maine. In and around the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, we have a high probability of at least two. As far as the West is concerned, I'm just going to put the probability of at least eight, and this is through Friday night. So you can see up and down the Cascades and the Sierra Nevadas and the Northern Rockies, a lot of these red zones here, all indicating the probability for at least eight. I'm going to see if it's only, again, this is going to go on into Sunday, so there's more snow on top of this. So this doesn't cover it all. This is the probability of at least 18. And uh, the areas in blue, I mean, the blue is 50%. The red is 80 to 100%. So you've got some patches of salmon colors, about 80% in the Sierra Nevadas and also up into the Northern Rockies. Do they have? I'm going to go to 30 just for laughs. Look at this. They got a small area of 50% chance for at least 30 in the Sierra Nevadas mountains through Friday night, and also up in the northern part of the Cascades in Washington State. Just It's just very hard for me in a place where I've barely seen more than a coating to an inch at a time over the last couple of winters, and not I mean other than flurries here this winter, I haven't seen anything at all. I find it very difficult to imagine snow amounts like that.
Now, our good friend on the chat board, Frank Scalera, he's based in New York, correct?
I believe so.
He on his Facebook page. Now, I don't know whether or not this was taken today, or whether I really don't know. He put this on my Facebook page after I talked about the extreme warmth across the United States yesterday. I'm sharing it right now, Joe. Uh, it looks like he's taken a picture of a bunch of some crocuses or
Or
sprouting.
hold on. Are you? Let me bring you up on the screen here. Hold on a second, so I
Thank you
can.
to Izzy D for hitting the chat board tonight. Thank you, Izzy.
Those look like daffodils. High upon a daffodil, out on a limb so thin.
Rosemary
Nice.
Rosemary Dorfer like that picture, whoever she is. But in any case, that's I again I'm not sure if he took this today. Um,
And by the way, everybody marvels. Every winter we go through the same thing. Right around this time, daffodils, crocuses, tulips, they start to come out. If you have particularly specific, there are specific tulip bulbs that you can plant that will flower in March. Okay, they're early bloomers. But this happens every year, regardless of the weather. These daffodils and crocuses do come out. They tend to function more with um, they kind of go with the expanding daylight to signal when they're supposed to start sprouting. So I don't know. Everybody just gets so amazed. Oh, there's buds on the trees, and there's the daffodils are growing because they're supposed to grow.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
I mean,
that's what happens. So
yes.
anyway, all right.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that. All right. So I got the NAM up. This is the 18Z NAM. So this is what's coming through now. And actually, there's another batch that comes out of Virginia into southern New Jersey during the overnight hours. So this is at 2 a.m. And then there's another band that comes out of Ohio that moves up. So it looks like that area by about 8 or 9 o'clock clears New York City. And then we're just kind of sitting in there. This is where we'll have to watch to see if we break out into some sunshine. A lot of isobars there, folks. The gradients get very tight. But the main push looks like it comes in during the mid and late afternoon. And here's the front as it goes by during the evening. And Joe's right, by around 10 o'clock, the back edge is right to about New York City with the frontal, the front is just offshore. And then everything just goes out. And you can see that even the NAM, which loves to change things over to snow, and it does show it in parts of eastern, as far as down in the central Appalachians. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. But we do see it happening over parts of upstate New York and into interior central and northern New England on the backside. But I don't expect, I had a couple of questions about whether, we might get a flash freeze out of this. And I got to think with the gradient as tight as it is, I mean, it's not instantly going to go from 60 to 32. So I was looking at some of the atmospheric profiles, Joe. It's going to probably not drop to near freezing until about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. If it stops raining at 10 o'clock and with the wind, everything should be dry by the time the temperatures get below 32. So I don't see it being a problem in eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England.
Well,
Upstate New York, that might be a different story. Up in north central New York, perhaps, or up in areas from I-90 northward, but I don't think it's going to be a problem, in our neck of the woods.
well, 7 o'clock tomorrow evening on the 18Z Nam Foos. This is again 7 o'clock tomorrow evening on the 18Z Nam Foos on Wednesday evening. The thickness, Joe, is 557, and the T1, the lowest level of the boundary layer, the T1 boundary layer temperature is 11 degrees Celsius. 6 hours later, at 1 a.m. Thursday morning, Eastern Time, the thickness has fallen to 31, so it has dropped 26 decameters in a matter of 6 hours, and the boundary level temperature, which was at 11 degrees Celsius at 7 p.m., has tumbled all the way down to zero by 1 o'clock in the morning on Thursday morning. I don't know about you. That is some big drop in both thickness and in boundary temperatures. So, we're going to see a very sharp drop in temperature after this front moves on through, probably sometime in between 7 and 1. I'm saying that the front is probably going to move through the immediate New York area tomorrow night around 10 p.m. and then watch the temperatures go down. Hey, it may even go down fast enough so that I might actually, if I had my old-fashioned thermometer that I've mentioned sometimes with the Groundhog Day storm of '76, that I was actually able to see the mercury or the fluid in the tube actually go down right before my eyes.
Yep,
Maybe
I remember that too.
it might actually do this to a not quite as dramatic degree, but no pun intended. But this is going to be a sharp drop in temperature once this front goes on by tomorrow. And the thing that is concerning, I think, is that when the winds shift around this rapidly from south-southwest to into the northwest, and you get that dramatic shift, one thing that doesn't show up on the mesoscale models is these dramatic wind gusts. And, you could get a shift in the winds and a gust of like 50 or 55 miles an hour within a span of, like, let's say just a few minutes. and that could do pretty good damage too. So that's going to be what we're going to have to watch for again tomorrow night. Is this front? This front's going to come on through like one of those 50-ton Mack trucks on I-95. Woof.
And as quickly as it moves in, is as fast as it moves out. Because if we look at the upper air, I mean, this is the strong trough that's swinging from Hudson Bay through the northeast. It comes through, it goes out. Cold air starts to leave almost as fast as it came in. And of course, if you watch what's going on in the west, I mean, this is a mega trough, an upper low dropping southeastward from Alaska right down the coast, coming inland in Oregon, and just doing its thing as far as the snow is concerned there. And of course, while that trough is dropping into the west with the Alaskan trough, we've got the ridge back in the east over the weekend. Now there is if you look off of Southern California, there is an upper low there tonight, sitting south of Los Angeles. That's going to just kind of mosey along and move to the east northeast. It just sort of, becomes part of the flow, but it is going to cause a low uh, to come out of the Gulf, the southeast slash Gulf states, and kind of move up the coast and offshore. So that I think brings maybe some rain Friday night into Saturday morning. But once that goes out, we're going to be left with another big ridge in the east going into Sunday and Monday, and that deep trough in the west stays there, lifts up into central Canada. Another upper low drops down into California later next week. While we're in this southwest flow for the most part, there's a little trough there around, just off the Jersey coast, some kind of upper low. But the point is that, this Alaskan trough, which has been there for a good chunk of this winter, just won't go away. And as soon as it tries to go away, it just simply comes right back. And you see it even there in the longer range. I mean, now we're out almost 2 weeks, and we do have a trough that comes into the east on this run on the GFS. But I was looking at the ensembles, and the ensembles uh, and the operationals kind of diverge. The ensembles have this Alaskan trough there. It starts to finally begin to break down right around the 14th, 15th of March, if you want to believe it. But we still have a ridge here in the eastern part of the United States. So I can tell you right now, there ain't going to be no window of opportunity for the next 2 weeks. If you snow lovers and winter weather lovers are looking for one last chance, it's not going to come in the first half of the month. If it happens, it's going to happen in the second half into the first week of April. And if we're talking about that time frame, it means that things have to be pretty amazing in the upper atmosphere and in the lower atmosphere. They have to line up almost perfectly for us to pull it off. So just want to put that out there.
Ho hum. Well,
And
yes.
real quick, so here's the surface on the GFS. You see the front go by. Quick shot of cold air. Get it in, get it out. Here comes the system on Friday, moves across the Gulf states with rain up into the mid-Atlantic. It kind of grazes up into southern New England Friday night into Saturday. Actually, this model run tends to bring it a little later, brings it more like the early morning hours Saturday, and keeps it raining over New Jersey and Long Island for much of the day. Then it goes out, and then we dry out on Sunday. Here comes another cold front that weakens as it moves eastward for Monday and Tuesday. And then we've got some sort of other low that it forms off the southeast coast and brings up the coast next Wednesday and Thursday with see, this is when it does stuff like this. For the umpteenth time this winter, Joe, this model run, for example, decides it's going to want to try to build a big high in eastern Canada and have, marginal cold air draining down the coastline. That's why you see a little bit of blue there over Massachusetts and Connecticut. No, I'm going to say no on that and favor more the idea of another system in the West. You can see all the action, rolling it back. Look at that dark blue in California that starts on Thursday and just gets magnified. It doesn't move, it just gets magnified. Then it goes out, more energy comes into California, and another storm heads to the lakes a week from Sunday, if you want to believe it, with a cold front heading through. And then Turns a little colder behind it, big deal. And yeah, I'm not impressed.
Well, and as we said a few days ago, or even yesterday, if you're hoping for that last shot at snow, it probably isn't going to come your way, if it comes at all, until probably after the middle part of March. So, what else can we say there?
Okay, so it is now Briller Jeopardy time.
Thriller Jeopardy!
Yes. Average lows for the month of February. Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Philadelphia. Average lows in Philadelphia. How about 34?
Ooh, Joe. No, 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 no. Christinapedia 38. Craig Carlberg is in Snake Country at 29. So is Patricia Olson, and so is Jason Fox at 29.
So it's got
Maggie P is in Snake Country on the other side at 27. So what do you think it is, Joe?
well, what was the snake country? 20.
29 at the top, 27 at the bottom. Lou Arizio and Christina Pedia, and now all the geniuses are coming up with 28. 28 is the average low for Philadelphia. Ready for the next one?
Yeah.
Um, Rochester, New York.
Rochester, New York. How about 23?
A little closer, but not quite there. Um, Rochester, New York. A lot of folks are saying 24. And Patrick Darcy and Izzy D and Patricia Olson at 21. And Maggie P nails it at 20.
And we just got up to 101 likes. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, the next one is Portland,
Portland,
or Oregon.
I was going to say Portland, Oregon. Then I
Or
said,
is it
well,
or is it is better known as Portlandia?
or how about Portland, Maine?
It could be Portland, Maine, but this is Portland, Oregon.
Okay. Average low in
The
Portland.
average low. Anthony Orr at 38 is close. John Melander at 36 is close. And Rich Rothmansky nails it at 37. 37. San Diego.
San Diego, where one of my wife's best friends still lives. San Diego. Um, San Diego. San Diego, which really, they've had some really lousy weather in San Diego this winter with some heavy rainfall and everything. I'll say
Sorry
around
about that.
50. How about 50?
Well, around 50 is good, but not, well, it's around 50. We actually already have somebody that has gotten it. Danilo, I just lost him. Where'd he go? Where'd you go? Oh,
Daniello
here
and
he goes. Yes, at 52.
52.
52 is San Diego. Christina Pedia also got it at 52.
Yes.
And last is Seattle, as in Washington State.
Yes. And Seattle. What could possibly be? Didn't we do Seattle? Or was that for the average high?
High.
I think you were asking me
This is
about the
the
temperature.
average low.
This is the average low.
Hmm.
How about 42?
No. Mike Waterhouse, Patrick Darcy, of course, Rich Rothmansky, John Melander, all got the right answer at 38. 38. And um, yeah, special Briller Jeopardy for me tomorrow night, Joe. It's Alfred Hitchcock movies. Oh, that'll be fun. Thank you for
Oh,
hitting Super Chat, Scott. Most appreciated. And finally, tonight we have Flagstaff. Flagstaff.
oh God, Flagstaff.
Flagstaff, Azarona.
I don't know. That's a toughie. 23.
Oh, 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 so close.
Oh,
Oh, so close. So
sound like
far
Bob.
everybody's
You sound
too
like Bob.
high.
You sound like Bob Murphy when Jimmy Qualls got the base hit in the ninth inning to ruin Tom Seaver's perfect game.
Yeah.
Um, oh, all right. Well, that's what I said.
Frank
23.
Scalera at 19, you're too low. Patrick Darcy at 24, you're too high. Lou Mauricio, you're too low. William Uber, you're too high. And you said 20 what?
23.
23. Alan Rupa gets it at 22. 22.
Okay.
And there you have it.
And Vincent Croce was at that game, Shea Stadium, July 9th, 1969. 59,000 people at Shea Stadium, the biggest baseball crowd they ever had for a regular season game. And yeah, that was a great game. All right, so tomorrow night
Hang on one second. I want to see if I could find something. I wanted to ask you about this. See if,
You're gonna have Mrs. Bundy on tomorrow night with Alfred Hitchcock, I'm sure.
yeah, but now that I switched to the new computer, I don't have those graphics anymore, so I gotta I gotta redo them. Where was this today? Hold on, Joe. Just bear with me. I meant to mark it. See where I have it. Is this it? Uh, nope, that's not it. Just give me a moment here. Oh, here it is. All right. This was sent to me by Kevin Walsh. All right, I'm going to read you these. These are low temperatures, okay, in New York City, and I want you to I want to see if you can tell me what year these occurred, okay? All right, and these are consecutive, starting with February the 9th. Are you ready?
Okay.
These are the low temperatures.
Minus 15,
No, no,
1930.
no, 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 no. 9, 6, 3, 5, 6, 3, 14, 12, 4, and 0.
So what are we trying to do here?
So these are the low temperatures. This is February, starting with February 9th and going to February 18th. Okay. These were the low temperatures in New York City. Each of those days, starting with the 9th. 9, 6, 3, 5, 6, 3, 4, and 0. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those days, the temperatures did not get out of the teens for daytime highs. Can you name the year that that happened?
No. I'm all right. I'm going to take a guess. 1918.
No, not 1918.
Okay.
Um, that month also had um, snowfall. The snowfall amounts of 5 inches. Well, I'll leave the traces out. 5 inches, 1.7 inches, zero point 0.7 inches, and 12.7 inches.
And I'm supposed to guess the year?
Guess the year.
The last day. What was the last day with the 12.7 inches?
Um,
February what?
19th.
19th. 1979?
Yeah, 1979. I
1979.
was more, I mean, more along the lines of the fact of the cold wave that year that happened from the 9th through the 18th. Okay. I
Right.
mean, I remember that clearly. And Long Island Sound, except for about maybe 40 feet of water, was frozen from end to end
I remember that.
in this cold. These were consecutive. The 9th through the 18th. So yeah, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 consecutive days of single digit. I'm sorry, it wasn't 10 consecutive because there was two on the 15th and 16th. It was 14 and 12 for the lows, but uh, the rest were all single digits. I mean, that was just incredible. That was an incredible cold wave.
It was.
That culminated in the President's Day storm, 1979.
And by far and away, by far, and at least in this forecaster's opinion, the coldest stretch of weather in New York City history occurred from, I mentioned 1917 a few moments ago, or 1918, occurred from December 29th, 1917 through January 1st, 1918. On each of those 4 days, Joe, the low temperature at Central Park registered below zero. On the 29th, -6. On the 30th of December, -13. On the 31st of December, -7. And on January 1st, to usher in the new year of 1918, -4. In addition, at the time of the Times Square ball drop, which transitioned from 1917 into 1918, at the stroke of midnight, the temperature was a frigid 1 degree above zero, with a north wind of 9, making for a bitter wind chill temperature of 18 degrees below zero. In my opinion, those 4 days were probably the four coldest days that Central Park in New York City has ever seen consecutively. There has been cold spells. 1979 was another example of very, very cold temperatures, which you just mentioned. But 4 consecutive days of temperatures below zero.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
We'll never
All
see
right.
that.
Well, don't ever say never.
Yeah. Ah,
That's one thing I learned a long time ago in the weather business. Never say never, because that is an absolute invitation to your own personal disaster and embarrassment. And on that note, we will.
Brandon Grabachoff. Yeah, I'm aware -15 in 1934, Rayo, as he said. Yeah, and you want to know what, Brandon? Do you know what the temperature was like? What, Joe? Like a day or two after that? It was what,
Yeah,
50-something degrees?
yeah. It was in the 40s and it rained. They never saw a flake or an ice pellet.
I mean, it was a one-shot deal, Brandon. I'm
Yeah,
talking about 4 consecutive days with temperatures below zero. You will never see that again in New York. And one other question on the chat board from Vincent Croce. No, no, the eclipse on April the 8th will have absolutely no say in the weather or the climate. It's not like a volcanic eruption. It is a very temporal thing. I will say that on the day of the eclipse, depending upon how hot it is or how warm it is, and this might happen in Texas, Joe, if they go into the 70s or 80s or God only help us 90s, the eclipse will probably cause a very significant drop in the temperature. It may drop. We've seen that some eclipses, the temperatures drop, 5, 10, 15 degrees in less than an hour with the passage of the moon and the coverage of the sun, and then go right back up again after the eclipse is over. So that may happen. And also the wonderful thing about an eclipse is that as the shadow, which in this case is going to be 125 miles wide on average as it moves up along the United States, as it moves in and through, and the atmosphere, the temperatures fall, the air contracts, and wind from all directions comes in, and the winds suddenly pick up just before and during totality. So, from a weather standpoint, if you're a meteorologist, it is really something amazing to take note of. The drop in temperature, the sudden rise in the wind, all of that coming when the passage of the moon shadow moves on by. But in terms of having an effect on the climate, flipping the climate and, stopping global warming or climate change, no, it's not going to happen. So there you go.
all right. The Joe and Joe Weather Show, brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system, and you too can join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the descriptor to this podcast. Use the coupon code WINTER2324, and if you do, you will get.
You'll get a biggie, 10% off. Take advantage of that, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, so we will see everybody tomorrow night at the usual time, 7:35. By the way, just a heads up, we are not going to have a show on Thursday. So tomorrow night, after tomorrow night, we're going to be off until Sunday. So just giving you a heads up there. No show on Thursday. Nighty
And
night, everybody. Whoops,
we
hold
want to
on.
thank one more time Izzy D and the chairman for hitting Super Chat. And thank you all for the 111 likes tonight.
I'm going to go have some chocolate ice cream. Nighty night, everybody.
Bye.